135 is beginner weight, right? Maybe that's why you're concerned of losing gains at this current moment, but do you realize that there are certain exercises that are so challenging that you probably won't even need to use this weight in the first place? Or at least tap it out? Let me make a bold statement. You can get insanely jacked with only 135 pounds, or limited equipment for that matter. In this video, I'll be teaching you exactly how to do that. There's three things to consider before I show you all the exercises and cover all the major muscle groups. One is the variation itself, basically the leverages that you're manipulating, the more out of less weight scenario, stimulus to fatigue, things I've been talking about for a while now. Second is the tempo that you're using. So the faster you go, the easier it's going to be, and therefore you can lift a lot more weight. And the final aspect is the sets and reps. There are certain parameters which make it more feasible to use limited weights. So now that you know this, let's dive into the exercises. Starting with the shoulders, what is the number one time-tested exercise? It's the overhead press, right? Well, guess what? Most of you watching this video cannot do 135 pounds for 5 sets of 10, let alone 3 sets of 8 to 12. And I'm talking about standard tempo here, exploding on the way down, going fast, but still being controlled. If you slow down that negative even further, good luck even completing 3 sets of 8. 135 is very satisfactory for overhead pressing. In fact, many people respond extremely well to high repetitions in general, doing reps of 12, 15, even 20. Actually, you find me a guy that can do 135 overhead press for 5 by 20, I promise you, he's gonna have boulder shoulders and overhead press that is well above 225. That's not an over-exaggeration, it's real talk. So that would be the extreme level, but it just goes to show that 135 will get the job done. Can I say the same for the bench? Can I say that if you can do 5 by 20, 135, they're gonna have a 15 plus bench? No. But for OHP, just the nature of the lift itself, yes, it's enough weight, and you'll probably have to use 95 in the first place. That's for the standard variation. What if you do it off the knees? Guess what? It's even more challenging. And don't even let me talk about the Z-press. So in terms of vertical movements, there is no issue. And then if we supplement with an additional press, getting that unilateral action, the gains will be enhanced that much more. So what am I talking about here? The landmine press. Guys, 135, and I'm taking this very literally, this question, right? We have a 45 and a 45 plus the barbell, right? Try doing that one arm at a time on the landmine version. Dude, it's so difficult. You probably can't do 3 sets of 8 to 12 on that. If you do 2 arms, obviously it's gonna be possible. But 1 arm at a time, no issue whatsoever. And the strength curve is very good for this movement. So right there, we have 2 exercises that'll get the job done. And that's from the most simple variations using common set rep ranges that you're already doing in your standard weight training. So there's no excuse in regards to that. And for the accessories, all you gotta do is grab some weight plates and you can hit your sideways and your rear delts. Most guys are going too heavy on these exercises anyway, using way too much body English and not hitting the desired muscle groups as effectively. What about the back? What can we do to get yoked and thick and wide and all these great things that lifters want? What's the one thing that I told you about home training that you should get? A pull-up bar. So since most of you have access to one now, you might as well use those weights. And let me tell you, 135 will be a 1 rep max for the majority of my audience. Some people can't even do 10 reps of a body weight pull-up, let alone 5. So we already got a base builder right there that'll take care of you. A brand new world that needs experimenting. So get your pull-up game up. And if you're doing 135 for 3 sets of 8, I'm not even gonna tell you to do 3 sets of 10 or 5 sets of 10. No, 3 sets of 8. You do that 135, you're gonna be jacked out of your goddamn mind. You do a 5 by 5 with 135. I don't care what variation it is. You're gonna have some impressive development. Maybe not the greatest of all time, but it's gonna be something impressive. And if we go to the literal definition in the way that you only have 2 45s, therefore we gotta subtract that barbell, guess what? That's still 90 pounds, which is an impressive weight nonetheless. The max that I've done with 90-95 is 14 repetitions. And that was going very explosively, literally trying to get a rep PR. If I were to slow things down, I'm pausing at the top, I'm really trying to get more out of less weight, that would be more than enough weight for me. So from that alone, we can safely say that, yeah, most of you have enough weights for weighted pull-ups. In fact, you can already get huge without doing weights on this exercise. And then the complementer, right? We can talk about inverted rows, but I don't want to do that in today's video. Remember that landmine station I was telling you about before? Grab onto the sleeves of that bar, strap up since it's extra thick, and start doing the Meadows Row. Big credit to John Meadows. He knows what he's talking about when it comes down to back training. Actually, a lot of the muscle groups that were stubborn for him, he brought it up through special exercises. Now you do that Meadows Row with 135 and you squeeze that freaking muscle at the top, man, you're gonna get a great contraction and you won't have to go stupid heavy. Now, this is probably gonna be the easiest version so far that I could think about. but it's feasible for most of you watching this video. And if you have extra weights on top, like the 10s and 25s, then even better. But I'm just gonna say use good form. Try to bend over a little bit instead of being super upright. It's gonna be absolutely fantastic. And this is an exercise in which higher reps are gonna work very well, just saying. So going back to that 15-20 rep method, you do left arm, right arm, back and forth, no problems there. Then what about the traps? Well, again, in that same station, you could do one arm overload shrugs. I actually made a video on this subject last year. It was an underrated little gem, but helped out guys who tried it out. All you gotta do is grab that bar, man, start shrugging away. You can do that in the power rack or in the landmine station. And most of you can't shrug 135 one arm at a time. So I think that will be satisfactory not only for classic bodybuilding rep ranges, but even the higher rep stuff, which does work very well for building up your traps. And if you're doing a lot of neck training on top of it, so your neck curls, neck extensions, it's all connected, it's gonna contribute. So no problems there. So what about the chest? Well, I recommend you check out my prisoner style workouts. I've shown you a lot of different stuff you can do for volume. It's not even using weights in the first place. But if we want to talk about one exercise that's really going to make a big difference, it would definitely be the weighted dip. And 135 pounds is an excellent weight for this exercise. So there shouldn't be any issues with that. And you can always do it on gymnastic rings, which will cut the weight literally by half for a lot of you guys watching this video. I know for myself that I can't lift that heavy on that movement. So if you do weighted ring dips, it's going to be tough. And if you do RTO on top of it, oh my goodness. So I would just say regular weighted dips, ring dips, and then the RTO stuff. And then there's always push-ups as well. Though again, I recommend you check out some of my other segments where I show different variations that already make it hard. So I would just say for the chest, you're gonna wanna treat it with calisthenics, man. Like you're not gonna have enough weight to do presses lying down on your back. 135 simply ain't enough, it's not gonna cut it. So I would say dipping is more feasible in that way because it is enough for that exercise specifically. Now let's go over the legs, right? I would 100% agree that if you're doing a barbell back squat 135 and a conventional deadlift 135, you're gonna have a problem. It's not gonna be optimal in any type of way, but those are not the only exercises that get that job done. There are other movements that work the entire leg. There are other movements which initiate the hip hinge. What am I talking about? Well, starting with the squat specifically, the pistol version. But I don't recommend you do the standard style because there is too much of a mobility requirement. You got to be extremely stable, and I find it much easier to round your lower back, get in proper form, and there's a lot more shifting side to side, and I don't believe that it's a leg weakness per se. It's just the nature of that exercise, and it's not getting more or less weight in what I would consider to be a beneficial way. So the little hack around this is to stand up on something. Now you don't have to worry about that leg being fully stretched, and it allows you to be under greater control of your form. So stand up on a bench. You won't need to use heavy weights. 135 is going to be more than enough. I can promise you that. 135 is going to be challenging even for advanced lifters. Like my max is 125 on the standard version. So if I stand up on the box, maybe I could do 155 for one rep. So if we base our percentages off that 155, we see percentages that put us at a pretty low weight for that particular one rep max. And I've been doing pistols for a while now, right? So this is definitely the variation that I recommend. You can just go back and forth, no rest. You can be in and out of the gym. And it's just a great exercise to do if you want to get that squat in, a heavy squat. 5x5, 3 sets of 10, ramping sets. Even your higher reps at 15 to 20 is going to work great, but most of you won't have to do that for this exercise, right? So no problems there. And then actually my first home workout that I released, I showed you how to do the box jumps, right? Well, guess what? If you grab a 45-pound plate or a kettlebell or whatever it's available, even a school bag, you could jump up on that box and now you have another explosive exercise that's a lot more challenging. So that's a good one. And if you want to comment that as well, you got the way to step up. And for step ups, no way in hell will you use 135 pounds. You show me a guy who could do that, you're gonna have the quads of a 500 plus squatter. Easy, no problem whatsoever. Then there's always lunges, with a sandbag. You don't need more than about 100 pounds if you're jumping and you're using higher reps. Like you see me talk a lot about 5 sets of 20. I got great success with that over and over again. And I would definitely recommend to you as well, especially after the main work is done. Then the final exercise, I talked about the hip hinge before, right? Guess what? The good morning is more of a hip hinge than the conventional deadlift. Just look at the squat hinge continuum by Greg Nuckols. So if you do those, a plate on each side is definitely satisfactory if you're doing the exercise properly. Full range of motion, keeping everything tight. Put this in perspective. I've never used more than 155 pounds for this lift for 3x10. And my sumo deadlift was 565, and I wouldn't even call it an RPE 10. So if that's what I'm using, you probably don't have to go that heavy either, just saying. The guy who could do 225 for reps, strict form, is going to be well in the 600s of a deadlift. So 135 gets the job done. I started with an empty bar, I work my way up. You should probably do the same thing. Start light, work up, the carry is gonna be absolutely insane. You might actually prefer these over deadlifts and make it a full replacement exercise. So I'm gonna say anywhere between 95 and 135 for reps of 8 to 20 is absolutely perfect in every possible way. So yeah, now we're down to the final area, the arms. Extensions and barbell curls. That's all you gotta do. You already have the equipment, and guess what? You can't do 135 on either of these exercises, most likely. Maybe the extensions, if you can bench above, say, 365. The only people I've seen who do that amount of weight are elite benchers. And actually, I don't even think I could do 135 clean, 3 sets of 8 to 12, good form and everything. Yet I bench 385 with a pause. So it's more enough weight for your arms. You can get the long head action, you could do a standing up, lots of variation to experiment with, just get that extension in, right? Then you got your curls. Yeah, it's possible to do it strict, but you really got to build up to that. It takes a lot of time. And my strict curl against the wall is only 130. But again, that's a bit of a harder variation. So if we're talking about 3 sets of 8 to 12, which is what bodybuilders do, that's what they recommend, you got nothing to worry about there. So I don't think arms is going to be an issue whatsoever, especially if we're doing other exercises on top of it, like our major compound movements, in addition to some band press downs and band curls and all that good stuff. So you don't need heavy weights for that. And with that said, you pretty much heard the analysis, man. I broke down every single muscle group. I showed you exercises in which 135 will definitely be enough weight, and that should be all the proof that you need. So that's what I was trying to stress in today's video. If you know what you're doing and you're a little bit creative, you can absolutely make great gains with limited weights. So for anyone who's stressing, man, I only got 245, should I buy more? I gotta wait till they're back in stock, whatever. Or I go to the gym, everybody's hogging the plates. Bro, don't worry. And this is for guys who are trying to get really freaking crazy gains. Think about that for a second, man. The standards that I set in today's video are up there, which means that they're even more feasible for average guys. So that's it, man. I just wanted to show you what works. Try out this advice, man, and let me know how it goes for you. Let me know how your body actually improves with 135, what you previously thought was beginner weights. So that said, I'm done talking. Share some feedback down below. Let's hear some exercises that are challenging, and I'll talk to you in the next video.